Good morning. Thanks for joining us so bright and early on this Tuesday morning. I'm Deborah Miller, the JCRC's Director of Maryland Government and Community Relations. I just want everybody to know that before we begin, that this program is being recorded. So, of course, I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to the second of our three-part Maryland legislative series, Legislatively Speaking. While we had hoped to gather in person this year at our annual legislative breakfast, we decided it was safer and smarter to hold this event online once again. As you all know, the JCRC serves as the public affairs and community relations arm of the Maryland, Northern Virginia, and DC organized Jewish community, which is home to over 300,000 Jews. The agency represents more than 100 organizations, synagogues, and the Jewish Federation in advocating not only for the needs and values of the Jewish community, but also for the well-being of everyone in the greater Washington region. Today, our Legislatively Speaking webinar focuses on our priorities at the federal level, and we are grateful to be joined by Senator Ben Cardin and Senator Chris Van Hollen. After our senators talk about issues that are critical to them and our community, our Executive Director, Ron Halber, will moderate a discussion. So please put your questions in the Q&A box, and he will try to get to as many as possible. Now, it is truly my pleasure to introduce Senator Ben Cardin. First elected to the Senate in 2006, Senator Cardin has been a tireless champion for issues that are meaningful to the Jewish community, including civil rights, healthcare, security, the environment, and the state of Israel. Senator Cardin is a longtime supporter of the Holocaust Survivors Assistance Program, as well as the nonprofit Security Grant Program. Senator Cardin works across party lines to ensure that good governance, transparency, and respect for human rights are integrated into American foreign policy. He currently serves as the chair of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee, which is on the forefront of rebuilding our economy right now. He is also a senior member of the Senate Foreign Relations, Finance and Environment and Public Works Committees. Please welcome Senator Cardin.
Well, first to Deborah Miller, thank you very much for that very kind introduction, and thank you for your leadership in regards to JCRC. We, both Senator Van Hollen and I appreciate everything that you do. We're in the same business, that is to help our community, and we couldn't do it without the JCRC and the work that you do in organizing your presence in regards to policies that are important to carry out the values of the Jewish community. So thank you so much for all of your help, and to Ron Halper, your incredible executive director, who is so involved in so many activities around our community and around our nation. We just completed celebrating Hanukkah. It was an incredible opportunity. We welcomed the new ambassador from Israel to the United States, Ambassador Herzog. Then I had an opportunity with Senator Schumer to light a candle at the embassy. On behalf of the people of Maryland, I was proud to be there. And then to go to the White House the following night and light the menorah in the White House itself. So it's been an incredible holiday. It celebrates the ability of the Jewish people to overcome any obstacle. We might be small, but we're mighty, like the Maccabees, and we're able to survive and able to protect our community. So I start off by thanking you for what you do for our community. And it's great to be here with Chris Van Hollen. I couldn't have a stronger partner in the United States Senate than Chris. He is so supportive of our community, the values of our community, and is there every day fighting, including today. We'll both be on Capitol Hill. Ron asked I just give you a brief review of where we are. We're still in session. We started this session in January. We will probably be into very close to Christmas. We have not yet completed our work, although we've gotten a lot done with the American Rescue Plan, dealing with COVID-19, the bipartisan infrastructure package. There's been a lot of accomplishments in this Congress, but we're not completed our work, and we are still in session. We have to deal with the debt ceiling. We have to deal with the Build Back Better budget that deals with so many important issues in our community. And we really do need to deal with protecting voting rights, which is under assault around the nation. So we'll be in session. We're going to continue in session. And of course, we'll start again in January where we leave off what is not completed this year. Let me just make a few comments about the issues which I think are important to the JCRC. First, let me talk about Israel. I was in Israel a couple of weeks ago with some of my congressional colleagues. I had a chance to visit the northern border of Israel with Defense Minister Gantz. We saw firsthand what Hezbollah is doing in regards to accumulating missiles on the northern border with Lebanon, and the risk factors to Israel. It just underscored the importance of the partnership between the United States and Israel in regards to defense in the Middle East, the Iron Dome. And Senator Van Hollen and I are both very much focused on getting the replenishment of those funds so that Israel can continue to protect itself and its citizens in regards to the missile attacks by the Iron Dome partnership with the United States. I also had a chance to visit with all of the ambassadors to Israel from the Abraham Accord normalization countries. It was an incredible moment as we were able to see that there's really a great opportunity to expand peace in the Middle East. I then traveled to UAE and one of the Abraham Accord countries and saw how that country is going to use Israel technology to deal with the energy needs of the future. That's where we're going to see peace and prosperity in the region. So we're extremely excited about the prospects of moving forward. We have legislation in Congress in regards to dealing with normalization countries and putting carrots out there for other countries to join what we've seen with UAE and other of the Abraham Accord countries. I must tell you, we are extremely concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism. I am the special representative on anti-Semitism, racism, and intolerance in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. I can tell you that we are seeing a rise of hate, a rise of anti-Semitism, not only around the world, but right here in the United States. And we need to take strong action to deal with it. According to a survey that was done last year, 1 out of every 5 Jews in America feel like they've been victimized by anti-Semitism during the last year. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, which I serve on the board, has also taken on this cause. One area that we need to continue to work on, and Senator Van Hollen and I do this every day, is to join coalitions to make it clear that there can be, there's no room for hate against any marginal population. We need to work together in unity, whether it's Jews, Muslims, African Americans, LGBTQ community. We need to be united in our campaign to make sure there is no room for hate in America. And that's one of the reasons we recognize the reality. We have to be resilient, and the security grants that was mentioned by Deborah, both Senator Van Hollen and I supported the doubling of the security grant funds. We'd like to see it quadrupled, so we're still working to get more funds in that program. They're desperately needed with the current risk factors that we see today. I'm proud of what we were able to do for Holocaust survivors. We were able to get that $5 million up. That was an original grant a couple of years ago. I led the effort on. Now we're looking to try to double those funds in the next budget cycle. Let me just mention in concluding about our effort to advance our Jewish values. And that's very clearly in President Biden's Build Back Better budget. We needed to get that to the finish line. We're talking about affordable housing. We're talking about reducing child poverty. We're talking about making childcare affordable. We're talking about universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds. We're talking about the values that we hold dear in our community through our Jewish institutions to make sure that all Jews are protected. We need to make sure all Americans are protected. You're doing your work in the Jewish community. We need to do our work in Congress to protect the American people. And we need to get that to the finish line. That's very clearly our top priority to get done before the end of this year. It's really an honor to represent you in the United States Senate. And again, it's a pleasure to work with Senator Van Hollen. And I very much appreciate the support that we receive from the Jewish community.
Thank you, Senator Cardin, for those insightful remarks. Oh, excuse me, my screen just went out. Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, Bobby, we
Yes.
can hear
Okay.
you. Would you
Well,
like me to introduce Senator Van
Well, I
Hollen, or are
can.
you good to go?
I can do that, but I'm not going to mess around with trying to find my video right now. I'm Bobby Shulman, and I co-chair the JCRC Maryland Commission. I now have the pleasure of introducing Senator Chris Van Hollen, who will give us some of his valuable insights. Elected to the U.S. Senate in 2016, Senator Van Hollen is committed to fighting to ensure that our country lives up to its full promise of equal rights, equal justice, and equal opportunity. Is a great friend and a strong advocate for the Jewish community. As a member of the Appropriations Committee, he champions the Nonprofit Security Grant Program, which provides support to nonprofit organizations at high risk of terrorist attacks, including Jewish schools and synagogues. Chris is deeply committed to the security of the State of Israel, and he has introduced legislation toward ending anti-Semitism and all other forms of discrimination through the No Hate Act. He is also co-sponsor of the Never Again Education Act. Chris, it's a pleasure having you here again.
Well, Bobby, thank you much for your warm words. Most of all, thank you for your leadership at JCRC. It's wonderful to be with everybody. Deborah Miller, welcome aboard as the head of government relations. And to my good friend, Ron Halber, thank you for your dedicated leadership for so many years. We really enjoy our partnership. I hope everybody had a very happy Hanukkah. It's great to be here with my friend Ben. As he said, we are good friends and work very closely together. And I just want to thank Senator Cardin for really being the leader of Team Maryland in the United States Senate. He brings the Maryland, excuse me, the Maryland delegation together. So always look forward to our continued partnership and his leadership. And I wish we could all be together once again in person. I know this is the second year. I call this the BYOB version, bring your own bagel. And I'm looking forward to getting back to in-person sessions. Let me just thank JCRC as an organization and the entire JCRC family for what you've done for our community, both in normal times, but of course, especially the outreach that you did to every member of our community during this pandemic. You've been there for the Jewish community, but you've also been there for the wider community throughout this region. And I'm just grateful for all you do for neighbors in need. As Senator Cardin said, we've been working very hard to provide additional support during the pandemic through a series of bills, the CARES Act, and then most recently, the American Rescue Plan, which provided very substantial assistance in food assistance, in rental assistance, in providing people with extended unemployment insurance benefits when they needed them most, and very importantly, including the beginning of the child tax credit. This is the $3,600 a month per child, up to $3,600 per month per child, something that expires at the end of this year if we don't extend it as part of the Build Back Better agenda, which it is. And we've got a lot of work to do on that front, as Senator Cardin said. We're glad we passed the infrastructure modernization bill, but we really have to get the rest of the agenda over the finish line. I want to just second everything Ben Cardin said. I'm just going to amplify on a couple areas. And we have seen this terrible rise in anti-Semitism. We've seen it around the world. We've seen it here at home. I'm proud to be a member of the bipartisan task force, Senate task force to combat anti-Semitism. We're hoping, I think both Ben and I are hoping that we have a hearing soon on the nomination of Deborah Lipstadt, who's been appointed by the Biden administration as the special envoy for anti-Semitism. This is a very urgent and important issue. There's no reason to wait. Unfortunately, we've had some delay in getting a hearing, just as we've seen lots of other nominations delayed as well. And we've really got to get those passed, both to fight anti-Semitism in the case of this important appointment, but also ambassadorial positions around the world that are being left unnecessarily vacant. And that's just hurting our national security. In order to fight hate, in addition to a special envoy, we need to be focused here at home. And Bobby mentioned the no hate legislation, which I've been a strong supporter of and working on, along with the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, where we incorporated some of those provisions from the no hate bill, but we need to fill in the rest with that legislation. On the nonprofit security grant programs, as Senator Cardin said, right now there's 90 million in. I will say we've made great progress over the years, but this is an essential program, and we will continue to fight to increase those resources in order to protect synagogues and other places of worship in our community, which we've just seen all too tragically become targets of terrorist attack. And so look forward to working with all of you to make sure that we provide funding for that very important program. I had an opportunity to take a very good visit to Israel with some of my colleagues, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, Senator Ossoff. I think we were the first delegation to Israel after the new government was formed with Prime Minister Bennett. And we had a terrific set of meetings with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, and others in the government, including the President. And we wanted to make clear that our continued desire for a very strong U.S.-Israel relationship, rooted in values, rooted in common security concerns. And we welcome the approach of the new government reaching out to everybody in the United States, Congress. What we saw, of course, as a result of the war between Israel and Hamas, the conflict, is the importance of the Iron Dome system. And as Senator Cardin said, we are working together and have been for months now to try to replenish the funds for the Iron Dome system, as we also keep our commitment under the MOU for ongoing security assistance to Israel, the $38 billion over the 10-year period. We're going to continue to fight for that. I serve on the Appropriations Committee. We would have preferred to get the Iron Dome replenishment passed as part of a separate piece of legislation. As many of you probably know, that's being blocked on the floor of the United States Senate. But we will get it done. I'm absolutely confident we'll get it done as part of the appropriations bill next year. Let me also mention the Abraham Accords. I think that they're a great advance in providing a greater opportunity for stability and peace in the region. And there's also a piece of legislation that both Senator Cardin and I supported that came out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, supporting the Abraham Accords and also supporting a two-state solution in Israel when with respect to the Palestinians, which I think many of us believe is the best the best way forward, as we look to the future. So a lot going on, a lot to talk about. I look forward to the questions, but let me just close really where I ended in thanking the JCRC for all the work you do in our community and work that's felt around the country and in fact in Israel and around the world. So good to be with you. Good to be here with Ben Cardin, and I look forward to the questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Thank you, Chris. Senator Cardin, Senator Van Hollen, I'll always start by saying how proud we are in the Jewish community to have both of you representing us, and for your friendship, warmth, and for always having an open office. If we ever, and a warmth with a relationship with our staff and our community, anytime we call any one of your offices, we get a call back within 3 minutes that how can we be of help? And I can just tell you that we understand that you guys are bombarded with a tremendous responsibility, and we appreciate that you're always your openness, your warmth, and the friendship that both you and your office have towards the Jewish community. We don't take that for granted, and we thank you. I have 2 questions, but I'm going to throw them out, and please, either of you, feel free to comment on either one. Chris, I think what you were alluding to at the end, and what Senator Cardin and what Ben was reacting to at first, was the Israel Normalization Act. This legislation that would build on the success of the Abraham Accords. What do we have to do for Senator Carter, then Senator Van Hollen, to get this bill over the finish line?
Well, Ron, thanks for your help on that bill. We had strong bipartisan support to pass it. It passed the Foreign Relations Committee with a near unanimous vote. The substance of the bill, I do not believe is controversial, but we have one senator in particular, and I'll mention his name, it's Senator Cruz, who has a pretty extreme view about what he would like to see in this bill, which would basically take the United States off of its traditional position as it relates to peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis by having a harder line position that questions a 2-state solution. And we are just repeating the longstanding policy of the United States in favor of a 2-state solution, something that all of us believe is the only way you're going to have lasting peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, is a Jewish state and a Palestinian state living side by side peace. So the leadership of our committee, Senator Menendez, Senator Risch, Democrat, Republican, all are in favor of resolving this issue as the committee has resolved it, but we have one senator who's held it up. So we are trying to find a vehicle that we can get this in to get it to the finish line. I am confident we will get this to the finish line in the right form, but we're going to have to find a way to get this into some legislation that we don't get the objection of one senator withholding this. Ron, while I have a moment, let me also acknowledge that we know the General Assembly is meeting as we are here with congressional redistricting. Senator Van Hollen and I are pretty comfortable that they won't change our lines. Although I'm not sure, we've heard rumors about the 3 Western Maryland counties, so we don't know what's happening up there. But I do want to acknowledge Jamie Raskin, John Sarbanes, and David Trone, our representatives from the Montgomery County area, and of course, Anthony Brown, Steny Hoyer from Prince George's County, that in the Washington area, we have a really unified team on behalf of your community, and we work very closely together as a team.
Thank you, Senator Connor. Senator Van Hollen, would you like to comment on that?
Well, Ron, I second everything that Ben said, because as he indicated, we passed this out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee with a big bipartisan vote, and Senator Cruz, I think, was the only dissenting vote. That maybe there was one other, but he's the one that's preventing us from taking this bill up on the floor. So I look forward to working with Senator Cardin to find another vehicle that we can put this in to overcome that.
Can you just give everybody a 30-second civics lesson? Because for most people out there, they're thinking 99 senators support this bill and one has, I mean, I understand what the constitutional, can you explain why one senator can hold up the passage of a bill that's bipartisan?
Yes.
It's an abuse of our rules. Of course, our rules are based on comedy in the Senate over its long history, and now it's no longer working.
I don't know if you said comedy or comedy.
Yeah. Well, the point is you need unanimous consent to set up a bill for consideration. Any senator can object. And in recent years, we have found a major abuse of that privilege by a senator for their own particular agenda rather than the agenda of the Senate. It's way past time that we change the Senate rules in regards to the abuse of an individual senator and the abuse of the filibuster.
Thank you, Senator Cardin.
Yeah, Ron, if I briefly add, At
Please.
its root, it does go back to the filibuster, and we're also, of course, being blocked from taking up the Freedom to Vote Act, and Senator Cardin mentioned our democracy under threat, and we're trying to pass these bills, but we cannot get beyond a filibuster at this time, which is why many of us believe it should be reformed.
Well, let me ask you a question right then. I was going to ask you a second, but let me ask you a question about the filibuster. The right now, when I hear from my Democratic friends, they are very, very concerned about this. Is the Democrats are very concerned about the House flipping in the midterm elections to Republican. I don't hear as much concern about the Senate, but I hear a lot of people definitely about the House. From a political perspective, in order for the Democrats to win, don't they feel they have to pass some major pieces of legislation which are being held up by this filibuster? For example, let me just ask you a question. What is it going to take? So I'd like you to talk a little bit about that from that perspective, but also what is it going to take to bring the Build Back Better bill across the Senate line for a vote to complete it? I think there's an interesting connectedness. A lot of people don't understand how much the role the filibuster plays in the inability to pass things, and yet those victories are essential for whether on a policy ground or from a political perspective, from your perspective, for the Senate to maintain the Democrat majority or to widen it. If you can talk a little bit about those two things together, Build Back America and the Senate filibuster, and then I'll switch over to Senator Cardin.
Sure. Well, first of all, the Build Back Better agenda is something that we're working to pass under what's called the budget reconciliation.
So you need 51 then, 51.
Which I think the country's learning a lot more about Senate procedure than ever had to before. But the budget reconciliation process is essentially a workaround of the filibuster, but it only operates to the extent that there's a nexus between what you're trying to pass and the budget. So, for example, you can do tax policy as part of the reconciliation process. You can do spending programs as part of the Build Back. But what you cannot do is things that are not directly related to the budget. So, for example, saving our democracy, passing things like the Freedom to Vote Act, which would prevent these state legislatures from enacting laws to put up barriers to voting. Those things you cannot do through the reconciliation process because they're subject to the filibuster. And that's why I believe we should reform the filibuster. I think it's kind of crazy to have a procedure that allows you to work around the filibuster to, cut taxes, but not to save our democracy.
And going back to the Build Back Better bill, what do you think? What do you think the chances are we're going to get that out of the Senate?
I think they're good. We may see some changes in the Senate. We will see some changes in the Senate. Again, as part of this budget reconciliation process, the Senate parliamentarian becomes really judge and jury, a very powerful position, determining what items that are in the bill are allowable under that framework, because this is a special framework to avoid a filibuster. And so the parliamentarian looks very closely to say, this provision cannot go under this special reconciliation process that allows it to pass with 51 votes. But the bottom line is we're going to pass the Build Back Better agenda. The only question is when. I very much hope we do it before we go out of session later this month. For one thing, I mentioned at the earlier part, the child tax credit of up to $3,600 per child. That was passed as part of the American Rescue Plan, which, by the way, we also did under reconciliation with just over 51 votes. But it expires at the end of this year. So if we don't finish our work on the Build Back Better agenda this year, that will lapse.
Senator Cardin, would you like to comment on the filibuster and the Build Back America and where we are in the Senate?
Yeah, certainly. Look, there may have been a reason for the Senate procedures 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but the way they have been now abused, we've had more filibusters in 1 year than we had in 100 years under the tradition of the Senate. So it's becoming an automatic 60% to try to obstruct legislation. And this Republican Party has been pretty extreme in their positions. They won't even let us start a debate on protecting voting rights. Think about that for one moment. With all the conversations that took place during the last election and all the activities that are taking place in the state legislatures around the country, there's not a Republican who will join us in starting a debate on the floor of the United States Senate, the greatest deliberative body in the world, on election reform. This is a constitutional must, and we are being blocked by the abuse of the filibuster rule. Now, I could say the same thing about the debt ceiling. We couldn't even get a vote for one Republican senator to let the Democrats take the responsibility to increase the debt ceiling. I could say the same thing on gun safety. I could say the same thing on immigration. We should at least be able to debate these issues on the floor of the Senate. So there's been a major abuse. I have come to the conclusion, I know Senator Van Hollen agrees with me, that you no longer can preserve the filibuster in the United States Senate. It is so badly abused that it's time to recognize elections have consequences. We'll have minority rights in the Senate. We always will have minority rights, but it's time to recognize that the will of the majority needs to be able to govern, and we need to abolish the abuse of the filibuster.
Thank you, Senator. If the Build Back, if and when the Build Back America bill passes, what's the next step on climate change? And I do want to also thank you both for mentioning the child tax credit, which is a big priority for JCRC and our federation system in this country. Would either of you like to talk about climate change and next step? Senator Van Hollen?
Chris, why don't you start and I'll fill in.
Well, the Build Back Better bill has a major investment. It includes a major investment and strategy with respect to climate change. And that's another reason why we've got to get this over the finish line. It includes very large incentives to move our economy in the direction of a clean energy economy and with more energy efficiency. Our overall strategy is to try to hit the targets that the scientists tell us we need to hit in order to prevent the planet from just totally getting out of control when it comes to overheating. And that includes, cutting greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by the year 2030 and getting to net zero by 2050. And so everything we've been putting in this bill is designed to help us reach those targets. Now, as I'm sure folks have heard, we have a couple of members who are resisting some elements of that plan. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to have a very robust plan to address climate change. And Ben will talk about it. He recently was, leading a delegation in Glasgow. But it is good to see the United States after the previous 4 years reasserting leadership in the area of climate change, because we have to do a lot here at home. But of course, we all live under one sky, and it's important that we have the entire global community moving in the same direction.
Yeah, Ron, if I just got a little bit here, I agree completely with Chris's comments. We paid a heavy price, the global community, with the lack of U.S. leadership during the Trump 4 years in office, with the withdrawal from the Paris climate discussions, the only country in the world that didn't participate. But more importantly, the United States is the critical nation to lead, to get other nations to move in regards to their responsibilities. So we entered the Glasgow meeting, and I was proud to lead the largest delegation of senators ever to attend a climate discussion. Just shows how important we think this priority is. But our commitment there was to get every nation to do everything they need to do in order for us to meet our global commitments. And that we recognize that for developing nations, we're going to have to help them with technology and resources. But every nation needs to step up and do what they can do. but it starts with the U.S. showing not only by our words, but by our deeds. We've already taken a major step forward with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure package. It contains a major elements on our transportation policies to deal with climate change, EV stations and infrastructures and resiliency, and all of that is built into the bipartisan infrastructure bill. But the largest single contribution will be made in the Build Back Better budget. We make the largest single contribution ever to climate change. And it's in so many different areas. It's in transportation, it's in resiliency, it's in adaptation, it's in research, it's in energy tax incentives. The list goes on and on and on. It's a major, major accomplishment. And yes, there are a few issues, very important issues, that we may not be able to get as far as we would like to get. But I want to underscore the point. We get this bill done, it will be transitional, be transformational in what we're doing on climate change. But we also need to continue to fight for carbon pricing, which is a critically important point, and particularly in regards to border adjustment and dealing with reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And we also need to deal with the methane gas issue, which is another controversial issue that we may not get as far as we want to get to. So there are some issues that are open that we may not get, but I want to underscore the point. We get this bill passed, it will put American words, put action behind American words, and it gives us greater hope that we'll be able to literally reverse the catastrophic trend we're on in regards to climate change.
A quick question, summarizing what appeared in the box. I think a lot of American Jews and other supporters of Israel were stunned when, maybe not stunned, but stunned may be the word for some, and others very, very upset when 9 members of the House voted against funding for Iron Dome, mostly known as the Squad. How big of a problem do you think this this is certainly not mainstream left, but more radical left members are to this? How big of a threat do you think they are to the support of the U.S.-Israel relationship? The other thing I would illustrate is that increasingly more members of the Senate Democratic Caucus are willing to attach or want to attach restraints to Israel's purchase of military equipment and its ability to use them for their own defense. And so if you can talk a little bit about sort of those two issues, where the Democratic Party is on Israel. Is it that much of a concern? Do you still believe the party is fundamentally pro-Israel? Is it fraying at the edges a little bit? And just comment on that. Whoever would like to start, please.
Well, Ron, I appreciate the fact that we're not satisfied with 98% support in the Democratic Party for Israel. I can recognize that we want to make it 100%, but let's recognize that we enjoy very, very, very strong support among Democrats and Republicans, between the House, the Senate, between the Congress and the White House, and we should celebrate that, but recognize we need to continue to work on it. Point I want to raise, and I'll be very specific about this. The Republican Party decided to make Israel a political wedge issue. That hurt Israel. Bipartisan support for Israel is critically important. There's a lot of problems around the world, and we can lose our priority and attention to Israel pretty quickly. So it's important that we maintain that bipartisan support for Israel, which is there, and not allow Israel to be used as a political wedge issue. Now, in my meetings with Prime Minister Bennett, I'm sure Senator Van Hollen had the same message, he was very strong about maintaining bipartisan support. He went out of his way to say he's going to do everything he can to reach out to Democrats and Republicans to make it clear. That wasn't true with the previous administration in Israel. So let's be clear that there has been those who have tried to politicize a division rather than trying to recognize we have strong support. Do we have some different views? Sure, we're going to have some different views. But I can tell you it's rock solid in the Democratic Party in its support for Israel and the special relationship between the two countries. And judge us by our actions. The fact that that bill passed by overwhelming majority with just a few dissents. We have the support, but don't take it for granted. Work on it, continue to work on it, continue to do the great work JCRC is doing, support those groups that are pro-Israel, that are working within our political system, and don't fall trap to those who want to politicize and make partisan the support for Israel.
I've been telling a lot of our activists, look at the, don't listen to the megaphone, look at the votes. Anyway, Senator Van Hollen,
for what Ben said, which is, I think there is rock solid support. I think both frankly, the previous administration here and the previous government in Israel departed from, traditional bipartisan consensus, and certainly the administration here abandoned many of the bipartisan principles that have been pursued for decades in the United States. I would also point out, Ron, we talked about two bills this morning. One was the Iron Dome replenishment as it stands in the Senate. The other was the bill with respect to the Abraham Accords and other policies. Sadly, both are being blocked right now in the Senate by Republican senators, one by Rand Paul, the other by Ted Cruz. So anyway, it's important, it seems to me, to look at, as Senator Cardin said, this is always something we have to work on, but I think we're in a good place. If I could just use my last 30 seconds to
Please.
Thank a tremendous member of my team, Joan Kleiman, who heads up our whole state operations, and she's just done a terrific job for the people of this state in regular times, but also throughout this pandemic. And I know Ben's team has been on the front lines as well. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank her and my team.
Two things.
And I may say, Ron, I want to give Ken Reichert a shout out. He has made a long recovery and is now smiling a lot more these days. So it's good to see Ken back. And I appreciate everything he does in regards to the JCRC and the community in Montgomery County.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank, first of all, Senators, I just want to tell you that we appreciate, I've been working with Ken and Joan in your congressional, when you were a congressman, Chris, and I've worked with Ken for years, Ben, and you both have terrific staffs. Absolutely terrific staffs that really help you guys do a great job. I also want to conclude, thank you for reiterating the point. One of the things that I'm constantly out there telling people is we've got to maintain the bipartisan support for Israel. Israel's bedrock support in the end comes down to Congress. Presidents change, members of Congress stick around for a long time, and they're the backstop, and we need to keep nourishing that bipartisanship. So I appreciate the fact that now that you've reaffirmed that, I know I'm giving everybody the right message. And I wanted to thank you again, both for making us so proud that you're both of our senators from our great state, and for doing such a great job representing the Jewish community, and everyone of your devotion to our health and well-being, and especially during these very, very difficult times when we've been challenged as a nation, and when we've been due to the pandemic and other reasons. So thank you for just being who you are. We're very grateful that we have the two of you in the office that you're in. And I'm going to switch over now to Bobby Schulman to close today's program. And again, thank you very much for being here, Bobby.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you both, senators, for sharing your time and expertise with us, and for, of course, your deep commitment to the Jewish community and its priorities. And we look forward to many years of continuing friendship and partnership. The JCRC invites you to join us again on Wednesday, January 12th at 8 a.m. for our third and final legislatively speaking. We are excited to have as our guests Congressmen Jamie Raskin, John Sarbanes, and David Trones. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and have a wonderful day.